Where do you know? Who do you know that you can go to and say, hi, I would like to use your space to shoot? What space do you yourself have? Do you have a bedroom or 2 bedroom? Do you know somebody who has access to a place? So it is important to have these locations accessible. And what props are available to you? Whether you're the writer or you're the producer, these are things that you need to discuss. So especially for producers, the props are more their department, because the producers will be the ones to inform the writers to say, okay, this is what we have available. We have smoke machines, we have fake guns, we have fake prop knives, we have vampire teeth, we have these equipment, we have these costumes, and then the writer uses that as a guide in their writing. So you need to work within your team's skills. For those who have been on production, it is important you know this, that networking is a big part of filmmaking, right? Those you know are going to help you make your film a lot more than those you don't. It is important to work with those you have access to start making friends. This is something I told every class I taught at the EbonyLife Creative Academy. Don't just make friends with people in your class. Go and make friends with people from other departments, because filmmaking is a collaborative environment. You cannot do everything by yourself. You cannot write, produce, edit, shoot, and star in the film and be the only star in the film. You cannot score. Some people have tried to do that to devastating results. There are those who are multi-talented, right? But these people still need team members. So who are the team members that are available to you, and what can these people do? If you have somebody who's shot a short film, you can take the risk on this person shooting a feature for you. If you have somebody who has 1 or 2 experiences doing something, then you can take the risk on them doing that for your film. If you have a bit more money that you can use to sweet talk a professional to say, hi, I'm a low budget filmmaker and I would like to produce something, can I reach you? Do that. It is important to write within reality. You need to be able to achieve this, because in the end, you want to be able to finish what you start. I produced a film this year that I wrote, maybe 2016, 2017. I wrote a 1-location feature film with a handful of characters. I considered how I was going to do it, but at the time I was not ready, because life happens. And now that I'm a father with 2 kids, it gets even more. But then when the time comes and you have your crew members and you have those that can work with you, then you know that, okay, I can achieve this. So you want to be able to achieve what you set out to do. You need to write something that you can work with. Why are you writing helicopters in your films? Do you have access to that? Why are you writing that your characters are partying on a private yacht? Do you have access to that? If you're consider the cost it would take to rent a private yacht for the duration of your film, for the duration of the scene, and then you understand that, okay, maybe I could take this out and set this somewhere else. What matters is you want your film to be achievable, whether you're the writer, you're the producer, or you are both. Your limitations are your superpower, right? So the constraints that you're working with, they drive the originality. If you only have a limited amount of cash, if you only have a limited amount of people that you're friends with that can do this for you for a discounted free fee, if you only have access to this location for XYZ number of days, if you only have a handful of equipment, then you start thinking about how to maximize these things. So you're not just filming, you're trying to produce something that looks good, that looks original. And this is where the discussions with the producer and the writer still come into play. Producer tells the writer, I know 3 people, I know 5 people, I know 10 people. What story can we craft around these people? I don't have money for fake blood. I don't have money for bullet holes or CGI. What can we do? So with that in mind, it then becomes a test of the writer's creativity. What can you do with these constraints, right? You need to be a problem solver in this situation. How do we tell a story that is character focused, where we can have interesting character dynamics, interesting conflict, interesting resolution, and still keep it to a small budget? This helps you to create a tone for your film. And this can then resonate in your writing, because you realize that the more you learn to maximize minimal resources, the more you can do when you then have access to a lot more funds. You realize then that, okay, if I could make 5 characters work, for 5 characters, 7 characters, 10 characters, 3 characters work for a 90-page script, then I can do more with 100 people, with 20 people, with 30 people, with a lot more locations, with a lot more razzmatazz. Okay, so the tone of your storytelling is important, and all of this helps to strengthen your storytelling skill. You as a writer, you are the first builder of the film. You are the one who knows what is going to look like, because you're the one telling the story. So it is important that you test your creativity instead of going for the cliche stuff, of which cliches are not bad. But instead of going for the cliche stuff, think, how can I twist this cliche to give me something that is unexpected and yet relatable and entertaining? You're creating your own style, you're creating your own story. At the side here, we have a picture of the movie The Hole. It's a film about these 4 teenagers who find a hole in the basement somewhere and decide to go and have a party in there. And what do you know? They get stuck. The door to the hole is not opening. So these guys are stuck down there. They only have a handful of food with them, snacks and water and whatnot, and they have to survive until they can get help. And this was pre-cell phones. So using that constraints to tell a story, you get to see character dynamics that play out and how each person has what they want and how it's driving how they interact with each other. You get to see their responsibilities, you get to see their priorities. These are things that you want to encourage in your own characters when you create them. Now it is important to pay attention to your story over your spectacle. What is going to sell your film is not just the explosions, it's not just the violence, it's not the horror, it's not the fear, it is the story itself. And what is the story? The story is about your characters. Your characters are what drive your story. Your characters should be what drive your story. Your characters should continue to be what carry your film. So it is important to build strong characters. This is not a character class, so I'm not going to be going into the character creation framework, but just keywords. Who is your character? Define your character. Who is this person? And then what does this person want? What do they need? What do they want to change? What do they want to affect? And what is stopping them? So 3 questions. Who is your character? What do they want? What's stopping them? Identify this and you know what your story is. And then build strong characters with relatable needs and put challenging obstacles against them. It is important to focus on the emotional conflict here. You don't want a lot of physical conflict in a low budget film. Why? Because it takes time to rehearse those. There is the challenge of injuries on sets. You want your conflict to be more emotional than physical, and this now comes into your dialogue. How do your characters speak? What are their character dynamics? What are the tones that they have? Who are these people in the first place, and how do they speak? How do they face problems? Do they run from problems? Do they cause problems? Do they face problems? Are they problem solvers? Are they instigators? Using these to build your characters helps you have a rich set of characters. So you can't have a film with 6 characters and all of them are the same. That's not going to help your film, because if everybody is the same, then what are we watching, right? But then build your characters as people who are different, have a lot of different viewpoints in a space, whether they are arguing about who is right or wrong, whether they are arguing about how to end the world, whether they are arguing about whether men and women can be friends or not, whether they are arguing about whether sex is love, whether they are arguing about whether God exists or whether the devil is the best friend of man, whatever they are arguing about, that dialogue carries the weight of your film. So focus on building characters who, when they speak, you can believe that these people are saying what they mean, because this is their reality. And it is important to have stakes. What's the point of watching 2 people argue if there's nothing at stake? What is the point of watching 2 people in conflict if there's nothing at stake? What is the stake of your film? For The Hole, the stake is survival. For Love Lockdown, what matters here is oh crap, I've forgotten the word. What matters here is whether you'll be faithful to your partner. Okay, for those who have seen Love Lockdown, you know that it's set in COVID, and that's the last question. What's your hook? What is it about the story that sets it apart from every other story? Love Lockdown is about two people who are stuck together in COVID, and they are exes. One is about to get married, and now he has to stay with his ex, or rather, his ex has to stay at his place while during the COVID lockdown. And of course, there's sexual tension. There's all these things. There's what matters to each person. The stake here is, if I get together with this person, it affects my marriage. What does it mean about me as a man? Do I get to lose getting married to the love of my life while I'm here with my ex? What is the hook here? How do you pull your audience? What matters to them? For movies like Exam, the stake there is, if you get to pass the exam, you are employed, and you know, there's only one person who's going to be selected out of 8 candidates, and this is the last selection. What is the stake? What is the hook for your film? What is it about your film that makes it something that we want to watch? Okay, so think importantly about your hook. Is your hook about the family? Is your hook about society? Is your hook about religion? And that hook also ties in with your conflict. What kind of conflict do you have here? Do you have interpersonal conflict? Is it man versus man? Is it man versus self? Is it man versus nature? Is it man versus society? What kind of conflict do you have? It is then important to have multiple layers of conflict, so you can have a character who, while dealing with the other people in front of them, is dealing with an internal flaw. Is this person an alcoholic? Is this person a sex addict? Is this person a compulsive liar? Is this person a compulsive cheat? Is this person is this person a murderer in disguise? So there you're building character, and you have a hook there. Your location, how many locations do you have available to you? It is important to limit to 1 to 3 locations. If you have access to 300 locations, fantastic. When you're writing a low budget film, if you think that, okay, because you have access to 300 locations, I'm going to set it in 300 locations, consider the fact that you have to move cast and crew to that location. You have to organize feeding in that location. You have to pay for permits in that location. You have to pay for power in that location. Or you just limit it to 1 to 3 locations and know that, okay, whatever I can control is in this space, and reuse your spaces creatively. I had one where the house changes depending on who is in it, but it is the same space, it just looks differently. So how are you telling your story in these spaces? Of course, remember, your characters are what carry the story, but then it is important to know that you're limiting your location, so you're not writing haphazardly. Trim everything down. Day and night variations. Have some scenes happen in your day, of course, some scenes happen at night. If you're working with a one location, then you know your characters are either working here, they're sleeping here, they are passing through. But this space, they're going to be here for a while. It is also important to have, I didn't put it here, but time is important. How much time is happening in your story? Is this a story that's set over a day, over a week, over a month, over a year? That time also affects the pace of the story, affects your character arcs, affects your character interactions. If you have people who have to survive in a tight space for 24 hours, that's completely different from putting these people in this space and having it stocked with food and drinks and all that entertainment and having them survive here for 3 months. So it is the challenge of the whole versus the movie Passengers, where I've forgotten his name, Star-Lord from the Marvel franchise. He wakes up early while they're in an intergalactic, where they're in inter-universe trip, and he has access to the entire spaceship, but he's the only one alive, the only one awake, rather, everyone else is asleep. How much time passes affects how the character grows, affects what the decisions the character makes. And because you've limited yourself to these locations, you have control over your sound, you have control over your lighting, you have control over the people who are in these spaces. It is an important factor for the writer and the producer, and of course the crew members when they're on production for this. Small casts, big impact, right? Create the kind of strong characters. that are going to be memorable. So 2 to 5 main characters would be ideal. You can have a few extras, but your main characters, those who have the bulk of speaking lines, the bulk of screen time, 2 to 5 characters ideal. I mean, you can push it as far as you want. What still drives this is your budget. How much money do you have available to you? So if you don't have that much, then 2 to 5 characters are ideal. And each character must matter. You can't have a throwaway character there who is just there to say one line. How does the person move the story forward? How does this character either add to the story or add to the conflict in the story? Your characters, if all your characters are agreeing, then you need somebody who's there to to rock the boat, to shake everything else. If all your characters are choosing to go left, you need a character who is contrarian, who says right is the best way to go. And then make the location itself into a character. What do I mean by this? Depending on the kind of space you have, like the hole that I was talking about, the hole is a hole. You can't go to a convenience store while you're in the hole. You can't go and buy food while you're in the hole. You can't go outside and get drinks while you're in the hole. There are no forests in the hole. There are no other people in the hole. So the space itself becomes the character because your characters are interacting with the space. What does it look like? Is it flashy? Is it creaky? Is it damp? Is it dark? Is it brightly lit? What props are in the space? If it's your characters are in a hotel, okay, what does the hotel look like? If the characters are in a church, what does the church look like? If they're in a mosque, what does it look like? If they're in a school, what does it look like? So this is how you turn the location itself into a character, because there are expected things in these locations. So you are giving your characters items and props that they can interact with. You're giving them spaces that they can interact with. If your characters are somewhere where there's no running water, okay, so what do they drink? How do they do their business? If your characters are in the forest, right, what does it look like? What are they eating? What protection do they have from the elements? Okay, as much as possible, you want to avoid crowd scenes. Crowd is money. The more people you have, the more money you're paying, and you're paying these people per day. So ask yourself, is the crowd important to your story, or can you do without it? Okay, your focus on your story is on the relationships between these characters. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they terrible? Are they recovering from something? What trouble have you created between them, or what trouble are you about to create between them? Is this a new couple that is madly in love, that's on their honeymoon, and you're about to mess up their works? Is this a couple that's going through divorce, and then you are putting them through danger and in an effort to make them come back together? Is this a couple that have already split and now they are here to get together because they need to achieve something for either person or maybe their children? What is your story? Is this a group of friends who have decided to do one final hurrah? We're not going to see each other for a while, so let's go for one last party, and then something happens. So your focus is on the relationships between these characters, and you can't have relationships if you don't have well-built characters. So I'll keep coming back to this. Your characters are an important part of your story. So build characters that are iconic, that are standalone, that are strong. So by the time these characters interact, by the time their opinions clash, then you can have the kind of conflict that will keep your audience watching. You need to write for production. So like I mentioned, what you need to avoid is crowds, avoid heavy stunts. There's nobody jumping out of a 3-story building, and avoid heavy VFX, okay? Until you can do the VFX yourself and you know for a fact that, okay, yes, I can achieve this, then keep it out of your story as much as possible. But then embrace dialogue. And not just dialogue. Don't just have your character saying hi, hello. What is the point of the dialogue? What is the conflict in the dialogue? What is the subtext in the dialogue? What is being said? What is not being said? How do these characters speak with their mouths, with their faces, with their hands, with their bodies? What do they say when they are being silent? How do you make silence also work for this? Okay, you need to embrace tension. That tension needs to carry the story. That tension, whether it is between the characters themselves, or if you're putting a supernatural element or in an element of danger to your story, that you need to embrace that tension. You need to make your tension consistent, and of course pace it so you have moments of heavy tension and then moments of light tension, so your characters can interact. Also embrace psychological drama. that is a key factor for this. I'm looking at the time left and it's saying 1 minute 49 seconds. So it looks like we'll be switching over very soon, but I'm going to do one more slide before it cuts off. Write local, think global. So I say this a lot. You need to make your first film to be able to make your next film, to be able to make your best film. If you're trying to make your first film be the best film ever, then you're already missing the point. You need to make the first. The first is not the one that has 300 people or has 17 A-list actors. Your first film, as much as you can control, is a low budget film. The point is to be able to make a film and yet make something that is strong enough that people will want to come back for a second installment. For example, The Purge is primarily set in a house, and we have such strong characters and such strong character dynamics that by the time the film was done, it was a no-brainer that there was going to be a franchise, and of which we've had multiple Purge movies and a series. Okay, so think about movies like Paranormal Activity set in a house, camcorders, handheld cameras, and yet the characters and the horror was done so well that it spawned a franchise of its own. So write local, think global, write within your environment, and yet think about how does this story resonate that somebody who doesn't speak my language can understand the situation that's happening here. What life issues are you focusing on in your story? Have that in mind while you're crafting your story, and your story will travel. So like I said, think of franchise potentials. Doesn't mean you have to write everything to be a franchise. Enough room to grow and have a story world that has characters that can explore other narratives, then you can have franchises, right? But it is important first to make your first film. There's no next film, there's no franchise without the first. All right, then. So you as the writer producer, you are working on making something that first of all can be made. What are the genres that work well for this? I would say almost every genre works with this, right? Your dramas, your horrors, your your thrillers, your comedies, they work really well. But as long as you have a contained story, you can tell a low budget film, right? You can have a low budget sci-fi, you can have a low budget action, you can have a low budget romance. Okay, what matters is that you are containing the stories to the constraints that have been listed earlier, which is minimal characters, minimal locations, minimal props, and supercharging your tension, making your location into a character as well. All right, so what do you want to write? What do you want to create? And how do you want to see it travel? We're almost done. Hang on, I think this is the last slide. Wow, we went through this really quick. Your story needs to be something that you can tell in a few short words. My story is about this person who wants this, but this is stopping them, and so they have to do this, right? It has to be a simple premise. Write with your resources in mind. For the writers, if you're not the producer, then you might need the producer to inform you on the resources that are available and that you can work with. We have XYZ props, we have this machine, we have that machine, we have mirrors, we have revolving doors, we have walk-in closets. What are these things? And then how do you write them into a story? I remember one time that I was writing a story and then move around the place, carry a chair, sit down, just look at the space and think about, okay, what could happen in these spaces before I crafted a story for that location. Okay, so write with these resources in mind. These resources are what challenges. Okay, if you only have let me use boxing as an example. Two people in a ring, you only have this much space to move about, and yet you have to defeat your opponent. Versus fighting in the streets where you can run around, you can grab bottles and whatever it is. What are the resources that you have to tell a story that is going to knock out your audience. Okay, you need your scenes to be tight. Don't write superfluous scenes. Don't write scenes that do not carry your story forward. Everything should serve to push your story forward. And this happens in dialogue, in character interactions, in character introductions. This happens in however you're putting your exposition. It still needs to be something that pushes your story forward. Important. Having a story that is loud from the beginning and then quiet at the end. How do you get your audience from loud to quiet while keeping them engaged? If you have a story that's quiet at the beginning and loud at the end, still, how do you keep your audience seated? You want your audience reading your script to say, I want to see this as a film. Okay? And also, once again, turn your location into a character. Make your location something that feeds your story. It shouldn't just be a space. It should be a space with a character. Like the walls peeling. I've been coming in and out of. Is that how your character is going to escape the space? Is it bright and sunny on a hot day? Is it a space where there's water that is flowing consistently, and yet your character is somebody who is for some reason allergic to water? How do you turn your location into a character? Okay, so the key questions that you're asking yourself for what mean that it's not shot with quality. Can it be shot cheaply? Quality is a foregone conclusion. It has to be of quality because you want people watching it to not run away because the picture doesn't look great or the sound is horrible. Still, can it? That is the important part. And then what is your hook? What is it about the story that when you talk about it, people say, "Oh, okay, I would like to watch this film." Like I mentioned, the movie Exam, 8 people in one room, about and have this, they have to by themselves knock out the competition. The movie Room, a mother and her son who is trying to get the son to learn how to escape and teach him that there is a world that is bigger than this shed that we live in. Paranormal Activity. People thought, okay, what actually happens to myself or to those in the same house with me when we're sleeping? These are your hooks. What is it about your story? Love Lockdown. The house, it's COVID, you can't leave, and yet you have to navigate the space with somebody who you used to love and share your life with. What is the hook in your story? Keep that in mind as you're crafting. And that's it for me. Thank you very much. I know this was short, but I figured that keeping it short will be able to pass a message that stays instead of having a 2-hour lecture where I just ramble a lot. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time and for your patience.
Oh, thank you so much. I really love how concise everything is. At the same time, I've learned a lot personally. It's very practical, very insightful. I love how you address how writers need to write from a production point of view. So I'm still going to go back into details, but I hope we have questions ready. So it's time for the Q&A. Okay, who's going first? I see June. June, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening rather. My name is June Janga, all the way from Nairobi, Kenya. First of all, let me say this has been a brilliant. Hi, this has been a brilliant applaud the All African Film Festival and Mr. Ebomawei Sammy himself. Thank you so much. That was amazing. I really, really, really loved this session. My question is, oh my God, please, I beg of you, are we going to receive a recording of this? We need a recording. Honestly, you rushed. Insightful. So my first question is, I hope we are receiving a recording, and the second one is, can we have a more in-depth class with you taking us through now character arcs and all these things, because you've dropped so many gems. Had one agenda, and yeah, I would be willing to attend that training, honestly. So yeah, thank you so much. That was brilliantly done, beautiful. I am glad.
Thank you very much. Marion, I think you have the answer to some of the questions.
Yes, we have a recording session. Yes, we're going to send it to the group. Then, which one you asked about, if there's any other class? I mean, if he's willing, because he's a very busy man, and we will discuss that. So we'll discuss that. I will discuss with the team if we can have more interactive class like this.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Training, and we invite more people, more writers who are already active and in the industry across Africa. This would be such a brilliant forum. Again, I applaud you for this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm teaching screenwriting, so yes. Any other questions?
Christiana just asked a message, just sent a message to the group chat. I don't know if you can see it.
Let me see. Oh, something this year. Okay, is it still advisable to trim down a story script at the point of production because of projects? Or does it have to be? Oh, hi, Christiana. I produced a film this year. Down some elements of the script. I looked at some of the scenes and considered whether they were important to the story and what they would do, what would happen if you lose these scenes. And you're as much as possible, you want to on set, because things happen in production. Okay, there are some things that you can't control that happen in production, and you might need to be able to trim something. So yes, you can always trim down your script while you're on production. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, thanks so much, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I have a question.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so my question is, if you don't get, for instance, I'm a scriptwriter, and I've written some stories, and I wrote a script recently. Now, if I get to shoot it by God's grace, how do I put my film outside? Because my YouTube page, I only have 10 followers. How do I reach the audience that I want? Because get people to watch it.
Now, this is something that I'll challenge you about. You're not making the film yourself, because you're still going to have cast and crew on your film. Okay, so never think about it as making the film yourself. You're always working with a team. Am I going straight to cinema, or am I targeting streamers, or am I targeting YouTube? That directs the resources that you have. It directs the funds that you have, because you know that if you're shooting for streamer, there's a certain level of cameras that are necessary for streamers. If you're shooting for cinema, certain level of cameras, and then print and advertising. Okay, if you're going from YouTube, you know that your P&A budget is a lot shorter, it's a lot cheaper. So first, you're asking yourself, what is your output? Where are you putting this? Okay, and festivals, is that your route you want to take? And then if you're putting it in film festivals, what you're trying to do is to maximize the visibility of your film. So you're targeting film festivals that relate to your film. There are horror film festivals, there are comedy film festivals, there are drama film festivals, there are AI. And then that's boost of visibility, because what it says is your film was accepted in these festivals, so your film is something that deserves watching. Okay, and then with that, you can then approach distributors and have good discussions. Now, filming with that in mind, and because you're filming with that in mind, you are writing with that in mind. Does that help? Distributor, you don't. You can have that conversation yourself. You can book a meeting with local distributors. You can book a meeting with Filmman, with Africa Magic, with so forth, because these people have agents whose job it is to liaise with filmmakers. And at this point, you're not just going to be a writer, you're going to be the writer and producer. So put on your producer hat and go have these discussions. Does that answer your question? It's fine. All right, so Oyebanji Kennedy, you're asking, I mentioned something about character building and emotional conflict. Is it possible to use who has little to no experience as your actor? If that is who you have access to, then yes, but I would not have that person be my lead actor if this person does not have the act. Okay, there are some people who have trained themselves, but they've not had the opportunity to act. So they've not had the experience. So do you have people who can act but have not had the experience? And I think that's a good idea. If you have somebody who has never acted, who is not your lead character, you can have that person as a supporting character, you can have that person as an extra. But as your lead, you want somebody who can act, who can take the director's instructions, who can read the script and understand the character and then bring that character out. And not just a lot more believable. There are films that I've written that I have seen the choices that the actors made that made me think, this actor actually understands this character. So I feel good. And there are those that I've seen that the actors made some choices that made me think they did not understand. They might have understood the character, but they did not understand the scene. So you want characters, whether they have the experience or not, and actors who can take direction from the directors to pull off the performance that is going to make people want to come back.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Randia, you have your hand raised.
Yes. So my question is, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Grandio. So my question is for, say, would you favor interior scenes or storytelling over exterior as per trying to manage location and also budget? Which would you favor as per crafting a story?
A problem for your lighting department. If you're filming during the daytime, you mean you have your natural sunlight depending on where you are. So like one of the films I've worked on, the lighting department complained that I have this tendency to write a lot of night scenes. I have a lot of things happening in my film. Always write night scenes, and that made me think about the fact that, okay, maybe I want to set things around daytime a lot more. If you're writing exteriors, what kind of exteriors are you writing? Are you writing a forest? Are you writing a bar? Because the more your location, it is easier to control an indoor location. So again, I would say, what kind of story are you writing? Why does the location matter to your story? And use that to think about whether you want these people to be indoor or outdoor. Whether it's an exterior or an interior. If it's an exterior, if your story is happening in the exterior, fantastic. But then you need to consider that by the time you are on set, there's going to be a lot of bodies that you cannot control. If you're writing something that's set in, just give me examples of exterior locations. If you're writing something that's set in these spaces, then you have people who live in the environment who pass these spaces, and there are going to be a continuity issue for your shoot. So unless then you have strong recommend consistently filming indoor. It is one of the best things to do, film indoors. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
All right. Olivia Dixon, you're asking, please, does low budget filmmaking apply and effectively produce the script to its fullest potential? Yes, it does. Because producers want something they can make. Something that ties in with the kind of stories that they want to tell. So if you're targeting a producer and you write the kind of stories that these guys like to make, and you put it to something that you know is or it's easier to achieve, then yes, go for it. You don't have to be a producer. You don't have to be the producer to write a low budget film. I've written lots of spec scripts that are low budget, just to sell to interested producers, because you can't do everything, right? You really can't do everything. So for producers that you don't even know about. Can low budget films apply to the epic genre? Yes, it can. Yes, it does. Yes, it can. Consider that the epic genre really is still in the past. You're writing something that's set in the future, so it still does apply. Have people having a town hall meeting, and they are that's a cliche example. Or you're writing a love story between two people who are meeting, who are from different families, opposing villages that are at war. Where do you set it? This is where your location still comes into play. Your car. Wherever you're setting it, your location comes into play. So you think about the locations that you want these characters to interact with, you want these characters to interface in, whether they are meeting somewhere in the forest, and then your pain and your focus then becomes you can still keep that to a low budget film. I hope that helps. Any word for vertical films series that is being introduced? A question from Abraham Simon. Have been somewhat low budget. Okay, so yes, it is still essentially storytelling. The difference then becomes pacing. That's the major difference between the vertical films that you watch and the films that you're watching on stories, so that we have 5 minute, 7 minute segments, and each segment is a strong enough story with interesting characters that still pushes the narrative forward. It's how you pace the conflicts in each scene. So what is each vertical film about? And that's the answer to your question. Okay, so I'll take 2 more questions.
I have a question. Hey, Jane. So my question is, in the form we filled, the Google Forms we filled, I saw a section that asked if we were working on any projects, and can I ask the reason for that? Is there some kind of how would I put this, qualification, or maybe someone wants to help with something, or why was that question asked?
Hi, Paramis. Hello, can you hear me, Paramis?
I can hear you, ma.
Okay, so the question was asked because, just like what we've been doing here, if you want Mr. Sammy, part of the Q&A, to shed like more light into something you've done, and you can just ask question about it. So that's why I said if you have any project. So we don't have that, so fine. But if you have, you can ask questions relating to it.
I'm going to add to that.
Okay.
In this sense,
well, if that's the case,
right. So what I'm saying is, I've taught multiple screenwriting classes, and you have those where the people in the class are enthusiasts, but enthusiasts don't. So it is important to teach somebody who is already working on something. So by the time you're teaching, they can ask questions that relate to whatever it is they are working on, and see how they can translate what they are learning to whatever it is that they're working on.
Okay. Well,
can I also like ask that maybe when we are going through the process of creating something on our own, is it possible to reach out to you for guidance or something?
The challenge with that is more. So I guess something can be eventually structured, but at the moment my plate is full, not just with projects I'm working on, but with those who I'm guiding on projects that they are working on. In 5 minutes or 30 minutes is something that can take months, sometimes years to complete, which is why much as possible, if I can do a grant class, then I can answer questions in that class. So it's not for lack of time, it's just because from doing this, I have realized that I have a lot less time. Who are requesting these help?
Okay, sir, I have one last question. Focused on writers, the Nollywood industry that most of us grew up with and most of us know is one that loves to a man has 2 girlfriends and maybe he's cheating, obviously cheating on 2 people, all those kind of stories, those cliche stories that of cliche stories, because I know a lot of people complain, even like on Instagram, TikToks, that they are not writing different things, they are not they are doing the same thing over and over again. If we now just ready to like actually take that in, because most films that we see that are like blowing up and all, some of them are cliche, some of them are imbibed with little differences. So now how to introduce this new way of telling stories? Okay, you want and won't say, oh, this is boring. Do you think that can happen?
I don't think it would be that's an interesting question, but my answer is I don't think it would be a matter of whether it is boring or not. It would be a matter of believability, because writers tend to write for their environment. They tend to write stories that are relatable. It is important to write a relatable story. If you're not writing a relatable plot, you're writing a relatable. Who are your relatable characters in this story? If you're writing a horror, fantastic. How do you make the horror relatable to your audience? Who is your primary audience? Your primary audience is the Nigerian consumer, or the consumer of whatever city you're in, right? So your primary audience has to be on board first. Audiences from diaspora, audiences from different countries, okay? So if you're writing something that does not relate to your native audience, and they are the ones who are requesting this story, then I do not think you have done your job. Stories are similar, a lot of stories are cliche or blaze. It is then up to you now to say, people want a love story, but people are tired of the Cinderella story. How do I tell my story differently and yet make it relatable to the audiences? So this is the challenge to you as a writer. What is it that do you make your twist be a genre twist? Do you make it be a character twist? Do you twist the end? Do you twist the relationship dynamics instead of a man and woman of the same age? You're doing an older person and a younger person, or you're doing people across time, right? What are you introducing to your story to make it stand out from the usual? A lot of writing is different, and putting your own personality and putting your own message to it. So you can have a love story that is talking about a social issue. You can have a love story that's talking about a person that is talking about an illness or a disability or something. So what is it that you are introducing to your story to make a love story about climate change? It's a love story about babies that are stolen from hospital. What is it about your story that you're introducing to that genre, to that type of story, to that trope? Okay, because tropes are not going anywhere. Tropes have been here for a while and they're still going to be used repeatedly. What do you introduce to that trope? So that there is your stamp. It is the you in the story. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Sammy. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all. We have a very limited time. We're running out of time, so everyone can go ahead with that day. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Sammy. I've learned a lot personally about turning location itself. I like that, turning location itself into a character, because there are some locations in this Lagos that can even turn to a Nollywood zombie-like stories. So thank you so much. I like how you mentioned avoiding crowd. Crowd is money, especially in Lagos, where you have to pay at the road. You have to settle some people before you can turn your character into story. Then I like that you talk about characters, very, very important for a low budget film. Once the characters are very good, you're good to go. And production reality, like I said, as a writer that is now a producer, I can tell you, writers, we really need to think of production when you're writing. Don't just write skyscrapers. What is the purpose of the skyscraper? It is not adding so much value. What are the alternatives that you can add to it? So, and those things are very, very important. So thank you so much for mentioning about resources and talking about keeping things tight as well. I really enjoy everything you've mentioned. Okay, I would have loved to, I don't know if I still have time to ask one more question before we go. or I should just send it now? Okay, let me just ask one question. It's just very short. Mr. Sammy, based on your experience, what would you say is the biggest mistake writers make, especially African writers, when they're writing for low budget films?
Oof. They like, as opposed to stories that they are going to share with an audience that is not necessarily that has not necessarily experienced the same things that you have. That has not. So writing something that does not that is unbelievable, that's fine. But how do you get your audience to connect with the characters in these stories? So if you're writing a reality that's out of touch with the average so you are writing with your audience in mind. You are writing with experts in mind. You're writing with the idea that, okay, once the story leaves your head, it is no longer your story. It is going to resonate with people, and people are going to spend time and money to come and interact with this world and these characters that you have created. So what are you trying to say with this? Self-effacing. If you're trying to put your story out into the world, that's fantastic. But then how does your story touch somebody who has not experienced the same things that you have? I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you once again. Okay, so we've come to the end of the class. Thank you everyone for joining. Like I said earlier, what we're building at the AAIFF goes beyond just a single section like this. The goal is to create real opportunities for African storytellers to learn, to connect, to grow within the community. So, this is a virtual class, but you can also network. You've already in our community, you can network with people. You don't know who can help you out. It doesn't necessarily have to. We're not trying to shoot the next big Hollywood thing. Just tell our story, like what you said. Go for local. You said something about writing for local, going for global. So that's the idea. Working with people in your community and doing something great. So let's just try to work with that orientation, work with that mentality. So at AAIFF, we've been creating intentional spaces for different voices, from our book club to our women in film, and we have our upcoming men in film as well, and our festival, which we usually do around October, November. So I can't wait for you guys to be there. But if you can join us, we're from Africa, from Kenya. Shout out to June. I don't know if there's any other Kenyan here or any other person from South Africa, from any other country. Big shout out to you guys for joining, and we look forward to more sessions like this. We have more virtual classes coming up. We're bringing experienced professionals like Mr. Sammy to talk about writing, editing, post-production, and all that. So thank you once again. If you found this valuable, stay connected with us on our Instagram or WhatsApp community. If you've not joined, once again, please try to join. So thank you all. Really appreciate. See you guys next time. Bye. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Miriam, by the way. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.